recording with Miss Claire Lopez, the ever lovely Miss Claire Lopez. Her patience knows no limits with me, as I am late to the 9 trillionth episode I've done with her. And today is I don't even know. I need a Thursday, February 23rd, 2023. I know that 10 minutes late. That's my fault. Sorry, everybody. But yeah, Trump visiting East Palestine, Biden not. Trump telling Biden to get over here. And the war, was that a year ago today or tomorrow?
It's tomorrow, the 24th of February. Yeah, talking about Ukraine.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on has Biden visited there yet?
No, we're talking about East Palestine, Ohio, which is close to the border with Pennsylvania. And it was on February the 3rd, that long ago now. We're at,
20
3
days.
weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, um, a Norfolk Southern train derailed near that town of East Palestine and dumped over at least 5 cars off the tracks. And it turns out that those cars were carrying a very toxic chemical load, vinyl chloride. There were other chemicals in the train, in the various cars also. Some pointed to the fact that the train was excessively long, 150 cars long, 18,000 tons overall. But these 5 cars dumped over, and the emergency responders from Ohio um, determined that there was danger that the chemicals still inside of the cars um, could cause a catastrophic explosion if they didn't release the chemical from those cars. So what they decided to do in consultation with the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, and the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, was to leak out to release the vinyl chloride from those cars, and they spilled it out into a ditch, I guess, next to the railroad tracks. And then, of course, the question is, well, what do we do with it? All this highly toxic, chemical. And again, in consultation, the decision was taken to burn it off. And that's where we all saw those huge black towering mushroom clouds, uh, you know, up up into the sky from the burn off of the vinyl chloride. And the problem, of course, is that when vinyl chloride burns, it transforms into other chemicals. Phosgene, for one, you might recognize that name of a chemical that was used as a chemical weapon
Hmm.
in World War One in the trench warfare. Other gases too, other chemicals, all toxic, were released as well. Um, the burning vinyl chloride also mixes with humidity in the air. I'm no chemist, but I'm trying to remember how it was, how it was explained. And basically, then you get acid rain falling out of the sky on people's homes and cars and yards and everything else, including the water, creeks and waterways, in and around East Palestine. And I think we've probably all seen by now the video that Ohio Senator J.D. Vance took when
Hmm.
he's been all over this. I mean, a great big, a lot of credit goes to him um, for immediately, going to the town and standing with the people throughout these weeks. But he went down in a widely circulated video to one of the little creeks around East Palestine, and he took a stick and he was kind of stirring the water. And on the video, you can see these rainbow hued clouds of toxic chemicals rising to the surface of the water as the water is, disturbed and stirred up. So obviously the chemicals have gotten into the water. I did see a day or two ago that the city of Cincinnati, Ohio, has stopped taking water intake from the Ohio River that many of these East Palestine waterways feed into. So that's kind of where we are right now. Um, except you were asking about, you know, who's gone to visit. Well, neither President Joe Biden nor until yesterday, no, I'm sorry, nor until this morning, the 23rd of February, early morning, um, is when Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg finally got himself over there. Apparently, he showed up super early in the morning. He's all decked out in, you know,
Hazmat.
one of these reflective orange vests, and he's got a helmet on, you know, a hard hat on, I should say, and you know, a pair of goggles, glasses, and so you know, he's all duded up for his you know, camera appearance. Um, but no, the president, Joe Biden, has not yet visited. Uh, didn't even mention it in any kind of statement until fairly recently. But what happened last week is that President Donald Trump announced that he would be visiting East Palestine. And indeed, he showed up yesterday, that's February the 22nd, there in East Palestine. And, you know, not only did he arrive with truckloads of bottled water and food and other kinds of supplies, but then he and his convoy, his motorcade, pulled up to one of the local McDonald's and, you know, basically went inside, mixed with the people, and, you know, bought them all Big Macs. And I mean, there's just such a stark contrast between the way that the Biden people and Biden himself have handled this, um, and the way that a real leader like President Trump handles it with compassion. You know, he's not thinking about the photo op, he's thinking about the people with compassion for them and thinking about their needs, which is why he brought all those pallets of bottled water and food and other things. Um, and then just I get one last point that I'm reminded of now is that in the very beginning of the catastrophe, when Governor DeWine of Ohio immediately, practically immediately, requested FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency support for the stricken town, they were turned down. But it was only after President Trump announced that he would visit, and as he did yesterday, FEMA turned around and said, "Oh, okay, yeah, we'll be, you know, providing federal support and help to the people of East Palestine." And then they made an announcement, FEMA did, that the Norfolk Southern Railway is responsible for cleaning up the mess. So that's where we are at the moment that I can recall off the most recent you know, news that I've seen.
What is the reasoning for them not visiting? Like all biases. I know you and I both like Trump. You and I both don't like Biden. We're very open about that. But just even just trying to think outside the box.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
what is the actual
I mean, the number one thing is that they're detached.
okay?
Number one is that Biden himself, his cabinet secretaries, like Department of Transportation Buttigieg, they're not really of the people. They're very detached from the American people. And then you throw into that mix the fact that this particular community and around there are very strong Trump supporters and indeed voted, I guess it's over 70% for President Trump back in the elections of 2020. And you put those things together, and yeah, just a very callous, um, detached response to these. I mean, these Americans. These are our fellow citizens who, you know, through no fault of their own, you know, wound up in a terrible disaster that may be affecting them and their children and their community for a very long time. And Trump is the one who gets that. I mean, he's a multi-millionaire, successful businessman, real estate mogul, Hollywood, you name it. And yet he retains that common touch. He retains genuine concern and care for the ordinary people, the regular Americans who make this place work. But Biden, Buttigieg, the team, they don't have that.
So even stepping outside of that, then it is the vinyl chloride is traveling, as far north as Canada. People are showing their cars and driveways in like New York. So it's not even, it is going to like,
Well, the airstream, flows eastward. The water also flows eastward and then southward for the waterways, feeding into the, I think eventually the Mississippi and then on down where it empties into the Gulf of Mexico.
so my point is though, it's like it's going outside of
Oh, yeah.
even Trump supporting area, which is like, so it's affecting a ton of people now. You'd think
Yeah.
by now they'd be responding.
Well, yes. So Mayor Pete did make an appearance, as I said, very early this morning, perhaps even before many of the folks in the area were really up and at it. I don't know if he was trying to slip in and slip out quickly or what, but he chose a very early hour of the morning, something like 7 a.m. or something, to show up.
It can't be, yeah, that can't be good. Like, it's like Chernobyl. Like, you can't hide this. You can't pretend the
No,
effects aren't
no.
there. Like, this is going
I mean, it's
everywhere.
not Chernobyl. It's not that
Well,
bad,
I'm
but it's certainly
same
bad
vein.
enough. And it's a very serious disaster, a catastrophe for the local people. Absolutely. And no, you can't ignore it because the media is on it. The governors are on it. Senator J.D. Vance is on it. The mayor of the town has been present every day, standing with his people in East Palestine. So no, you can't just brush it under the rug and forget about it because it's very um, visible to everyone now.
To to kind of pivot from there, because I know that today's a shorter episode. Um, what about complete 180? What's the news with China saying that they're going to come to the aid of Russia? And are we hurtling towards something very dark?
Well, it's already plenty dark for the people of Ukraine and has
Yeah.
been for almost one full year, marking that 1 year um, time tomorrow, February the 24th. But yes, the announcement from China that they're at least considering sending weapons, I guess, although unspecified, to Russia for them to use in Ukraine is troubling, is disturbing. I would note that up until now, China has been really kind of holding back their statements. There are photo ops between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, presidents of their respective countries. Well, I shouldn't call them countries, should I? They're not. Neither Russia nor China is a country. Each one of those is an empire built on top of conquered people. But in any case, the photo ops of the two of them together, China has not, up until now, really thrown all in with real support, um, concrete, tangible support to Russia for its attack, its invasion of Ukraine. Whether they're coming to a turning point on that, not completely sure. But I do take note that China is wary about Russia, not just about Russia, which is a declining power and is basically tearing itself apart right now. Demographically, Russia's in a death spiral. I mean, so is China, but Russia's first in that spiral, further along, let's say. Economically, obviously, diplomatically, bridges are burned for Russia, and militarily, Russia has lost maybe 100,000 or more troops killed, never mind the injuries. And we're not even counting the casualties on the Ukrainian side, which are horrific too. But China's been holding back in the view of all of that. And in my opinion, at least, it might have to do with not wanting that, I don't know, albatross hanging around its neck. But even as Xi Jinping and the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, consider what they're going to do about Taiwan. Obviously, they want to conquer it, to subjugate it to the People's Republic of China, but have not made that move yet, even though Xi Jinping back in October of last year, 2022, got his coveted third term as party leader of the Chinese Communist Party, precedent-breaking third term, each one 5 years. He'd already served two 5-year terms, 10 years. Now he's got another 5-year term. Even after securing that, though, he's hesitated. And the other factor in that hesitation, in my opinion, again, might be that he's watching the response of the Western world, that being Western Europe in particular, Eastern Europe, NATO, especially the United States. And contrary to what might have been the expectations of a lot of people, they all have hung together and come together at least to keep Ukraine going up until now. Now, my criticism would be that the aid they've provided in terms of weapons, the quality, the quantity of weapons, the pace of the delivery of the weapons has been too little, too slow, kind of dribbling it out. Whereas what's really needed, especially in the face of what looks to be the beginning now, here speaking in February of 2023, what looks to be the launch of the long anticipated Russian spring offensive this year. But you know, the Western powers having sort of dribbled out the assistance in the beginning. I think that was very much because there was a lot of expectation that Ukraine would fold, would collapse rather quickly, and that the Russians would seize Kiev, the capital, decapitate the government, and take over the country. And that didn't happen. And now here we are a year later, and the war is just grinding on with horrific, destruction across Ukraine, deliberate targeting, war crimes targeting by Russia of civilian infrastructure, water, electricity, but also homes, apartment buildings, schools, clinics, hospitals. And so instead of providing, that overwhelming force and in the kind of equipment, advanced equipment that Ukraine is requesting, longer range batteries, artillery batteries, and the tanks, which are going to be quite slow in coming, although Germany's promised Leopards, Britain has promised Commander tanks, and the US has promised Abrams tanks, but the training has to happen first. They're going to be slowly arriving. But, and now the request for jets, planes. Why planes? Because we know from, unfortunately, other battlefields that the best counter to armored vehicles, to tanks, is not other tanks, it's air power. That's why they want planes. Anyway, all of that coming rather slowly, and that's dragging things out. But at the moment, Ukraine still stands free, and President Joe Biden finally made a visit over there a couple days ago, earlier this week.
I would imagine, in my total lack of expertise, I would imagine that China would maybe hold off from supporting Russia, because I imagine if they do, they're going to start to receive the same global sanctions.
That's part of it, I'm sure, because China depends on an export economy. It's not a domestic consumption economy, as the US is. well, U.S. is both domestic and export models. But China is overwhelmingly an export model economy, and we're countries to sanction or close off those imports, which, by the way, we ought to be doing. It would have a huge impact on the Chinese economy, which, in any case, at the moment, is not in the best of shape. So yes, that's almost certainly part of their calculation and why they might be wary about launching an all-out attack against Taiwan in favor of maybe thinking they can drag things out and sort of grind away at Taiwan. But at the same time, as the time goes on, to our credit, the United States and other allies, both in the region and elsewhere, the Quad, that would be India and Australia and Japan plus the US, other regional allies, certainly South Korea and the Philippines, Indonesia, all are beefing up their own defenses. In particular, I'll point to Japan, which for such a long time after World War II, and understandably and constitutionally, kept only a defensive force. But now, more recently, and really this was a policy championed by the assassinated former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, that Japan needed to build up its not just defensive forces, but even offensive capabilities, which they're now doing. So all of that is now taking place over the length of time that's passing without an all-out Chinese attack against Taiwan.
So all of that being said about China fearing a global decoupling from them and or sanctions, why is it then? Because I get why they've been sort of neutral for the last year. It's because of that. But why now are they in the last 48 hours saying we're gonna start supporting Russia? What's that? Have they calculated it and said there's more to win than there is to lose?
Well, it's hard to say. Just looking at it from the outside, Putin himself has given some very belligerent speeches lately. Of course, the PRC has gotten away with its balloon caper over the United States, sort of testing our response to its invasion, violation of our territorial integrity. So it's probably kind of juggling all of these things together. But we don't know yet that any decision has been made at the top levels of the CCP, Xi Jinping and the Central Committee, to provide weapons to Russia. That's a decision that's not been taken. What we have the announcement for is they're considering it. So it's like, kind of dipping their toe in the water. What's the response going to be? We saw the response with the balloon, so let's try this. And of course, then in his most recent speech, Vladimir Putin said that he's going to be suspending, not terminating, not pulling out, suspending Russia's participation in the SALT arms control treaty. So all of these things are sort of attempts to apply pressure to the United States and to the West at a time when it's probably perceived that the Biden administration in particular is quite feeble.
Would you say they are feeble in their aid to Ukraine?
Not feeble in that, no. What I was saying about that is that the weapons, the ammunition, the quality, the quantity of the weapons have been dribbled out too slowly over time, when what was needed was a surge of advanced weaponry to push back the Russians, get them off of Ukrainian territory. So not that feeble, no, but feeble in other ways, like the balloon response, like tripping up the steps of Air Force One again. That goes around the world. Everybody sees that. Um, and there's probably a continuous taking of stock of U.S. leadership and responses.
How far do you think the U.S. will go? Let's say China just goes all in back in Russia. Will it continue to be us shouldering the majority of the money going there? Will other nations come in? Is this going to be a bolstering of NATO, or is it going to be a
Well,
cracking?
I mean, truth be told, our NATO allies in across Eastern Europe have really put in quite a bit, relative to their own, um, strength, economy, stockpiles of weapons and so forth. And of course, the reason is they know they're next. I
Yeah.
mean, Vladimir Putin has over and over stated that he intends to take back whatever he can of the former Soviet Union, if not the Soviet Empire. Remember, I think we've mentioned this before on the show, that the very name of the country, Ukraine, remember what it means? Ukraine is two words. Russian and Ukrainian very close, not exactly the same language, but very close Slavic languages. But it's two words. Ukraina. U means at. Kraina means the farthest outpost or the farthest frontier. The farthest frontier of what?
Oh, I got you.
Of the Russian Empire. That's the name of the country. And that is what Vladimir Putin referenced once again in a speech just a couple days ago, that he believes it or takes it as his right to reabsorb anything that at any time in history was once part of the Russian Empire. I mean, he has said this out loud multiple times. So these other countries of NATO, Eastern Europeans, either on the border of Ukraine or close to it, the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, come on down. You've got Germany not that far. Certainly Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, just the other side of Slovakia, Romania, Bulgaria. And we can see already that Putin is trying to play the same game in Moldova, which, as we know, is on the western side, borders on the western side of Ukraine. Well, they've got a breakaway region in their eastern part of the country of Moldova, and it's called the Transnistria. The Dniester is a river, trans across the river, Transnistria. That is a breakaway sliver of eastern Romania. I'm sorry, of eastern Moldova that borders right up against Ukraine. And there are Russian troops already inside of the Transnistria trying to encourage, a breakaway sliver, just like the same game plan as they played in Eastern Ukraine. So they know, those countries know that they're next. That's my point. And if Putin is not stopped in Ukraine right now and pushed out of sovereign Ukrainian territory, he'll keep going. He said so. He's demonstrated that he will, and it's believed that he will. So that is why I think we do see quite an effort from some of these countries, which are, not big economic blockbuster countries, but they really have been pitching in. They have.
So it's kind of appeasement doesn't work 2.0.
Not with would-be emperors and warlords, no.
Well, I mean, in relation to Hitler, right? That was the idea.
Same.
Yeah, give him.
Oh, it's just the Sudetenland.
Yeah, that's what I
Well,
mean. Is
no,
and it doesn't.
and Neville Chamberlain comes back waving that little piece of paper,
Yeah,
and what happens next? They
yeah,
invade Poland.
yeah. The beast is hungry. Yeah, I mean, I guess it just looks like we're kind of. It's like two cruise ships going at each other. It just seems like this slow motion collision of we're not going to let them keep going because they're not going to stop. and they're not going to stop because Putin doesn't care. And if China starts backing him, that's a whole nother powerhouse. It just, who's going to back down first? It just kind of seems like it's two giants colliding in slow motion.
I mean, it's become a war of attrition. And obviously, the Russian Federation, as it's called, is far more capable in terms of manpower, and even weapon stocks than Ukraine, which would not even be still standing were it not for Western help, NATO help up until now. It's just that it's been so slow, so dragged out, that I've heard references to it being like or having devolved into something like World War One with trench warfare. Each side, you know, just killing away, but neither side advancing very far in either direction. Ukrainians to the east or the Russians to the west. And that's the issue, that not enough weaponry of the caliber, the quality of the weaponry, sophistication of the weaponry, has been amassed at any one time altogether to give that definitive push, and that's what needs to happen.
I guess it's scarier because everyone has nuclear weapons now. So
Yes.
how long is either side going to put up with war of attrition before they just say screw it?
Well, that is what many worry about. Yes.
Will it, I guess, like, no bluffing. Like, will it come to that? Like, what happens if Putin says, let's say it's a year from now and it's still going? Putin comes out and says, if this doesn't end tomorrow, I'm nuking Ukraine. Like, rationally, like, how do you deal with that?
Well, the way to deal with it is not to wait until you get to that point,
Yeah.
but to be so overwhelming in force and credible deterrence against doing that or going any further, that doesn't happen. And that's what has to happen with China, vis-a-vis Taiwan as well. Deterrence in advance, um, not not waiting until you're up at the edge.
I don't know if this episode's good for my blood pressure.
Sorry about that.
No, it's I guess that's the hope, is don't let it get to that, because there's
Yeah.
really not much you can do when it does, because then we're just back to mutual assured destruction. Who's going to back down?
Well, we know the Ukrainians won't back down. This is
Yeah.
their land. This is their home. This is their people. This is their nation. They won't back down, even if it comes down to pitchforks.
And
Um,
and
so
but
it's about the rest of the world powers.
and I don't think Putin will back down because he's getting up there in
Doesn't seem
years.
like it. It's
No, he's getting up there in years. He might,
well, it's also that he's poured so much into this and lost so much in this that he probably feels he cannot back down without uh, losing power, if not more.
if it comes to the threat of nuclear barbs, do you think he'll be removed from within? Sorry, there are sirens out there.
I don't know. There's been speculation about that. There's certainly been overt rivalry from such as the Wagner Group. Yevgeny Prigozhin's a private military company, um, which looked to be posing some sort of a challenge to the Russians. um, or Kadyrov, the ruler of Chechnya, who's in there with a bunch of his jihadis. There has been some disunity, and as well among what they call the mill bloggers, those online, taking to the social media, um, criticizing um, Putin's conduct of the war. He has had to swap around different generals, trying to find the right one to lead the effort from his perspective. So it's not quite the monolith that we might have thought on the Russian side, but nevertheless, for the moment, it's holding together.
I'm trying to find like the out. I'm trying to find the off ramp. I don't.
Not right now.
Well, I mean, yeah, I got nothing. I'm trying. I got nothing.
Not for the moment. We will see how the spring progresses, how the Russian offensive progresses, and the Ukrainian counteroffensive, which is to be expected as well. I'll tell you one of the places that I think gives really good day by day updates on the war is the Institute for the Study of War, headed up by the chairman there, retired General Jack Keane, whom you may have seen, likely have seen on different TV interviews over this past year. But that's a very good site to keep track of things as they unfold, literally day by day. You can get on a mailing list and see the updates. If if it's not too overwhelming and depressing.
Yeah, that's the thing about doing this podcast is when I cover all these like topics, at the end of the day, I'm kind of like a little jittery, and I'm like, I need to slow it down. Like, I need to do an episode on puppies and sunflowers or something. Like,
Yeah,
it gets a little much.
I'll
Um,
volunteer.
yeah, okay, okay. Um, well, I know I gotta let you run because I know you are going to give a presentation. So, best of luck with that, Miss Claire Lopez,
Thank
and
you. Thank
guys,
you.
go follow her on Twitter, Truth Social, all that good stuff. We're
Will
writing there
do.
in the description. Follow Claire, and we will resume next week, I suppose.
Yeah, okay. Hang in there, Tommy. I'll
Yes,
see you in
ma'am.
a week.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being
All
here.
right.